what are we watching now? All right, I got to explain this one actually. So last week we watched a program called Icecap, which was made by the Department of Defense, and that was Icecap Ii. And this is, I guess, the sequel. It's called Icecap Ii. It's also made by the Department of Defense, but the year for it is 1965, which is strange because the last one was like 1953 or something like that. So this is apparently much older than the first one, but we'll see. We'll see if that really is the case or if that's just a weird accounting error. All right, so this is pretty interesting. It's not starting with narration, which is what the first one did, which is a little off-putting, but I guess it's interesting. It's putting us back into this is like a flashback almost to the first one. If any of you watched the first one, which I hope all of you did, you'll remember what we're looking at right now, right? We're watching a plane drop barrels of oil and food supplies on the Greenland ice sheet in order to resupply an exploration team. I hope everyone's on board with what's going on right now. I hope there aren't like a lot of new viewers actually for this one. But I don't know what else is happening. This seems like it's kind of a different tone already. Again, this might just be like a flashback or something, but it seems, or like a, last time on Icecap, but this should be good. Oh wow, see, that is a lot bigger of an operation. So the first one we watched was like a trail of like 3 or 4 vehicles, and now they have like a whole freaking, I don't even know what you call this, a squadron, a fleet of vehicles. Like that's pretty much what this is at this point. This has definitely gone up exponentially. This is like a much bigger expedition than Icecap 1. I'm so glad we're watching this. This is like, this is a good sequel. This is what all good sequels should be, is like times 10, This is probably that same magnitude increase in number of vehicles. Which I guess, is not really the best to be saying about the US military arriving in Greenland, but it's an interesting comparison to the last program we watched like this. Dang, did you see all those boats? Hang on, I didn't notice that at first, but look at all the boats in the background. This is a significant military operation taking place right now. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These look like, I don't know, I don't want to say they look like battleships. They definitely look like military ships, though. You know what I'm saying? Like this is definitely like a lot of firepower that we were bringing into the Arctic right here. Again, one of the things I said I didn't like about the first Icecap is it didn't really explain to us like the geopolitical situation that led to us finding so much value in Greenland all the way back in, I think it was 1953. It was a while ago that I watched that last, so I forgot the exact date, but I think it was like 1953. So I hope that this explains why all this military equipment is here in the Arctic in the first place, because that was my big question. It's just like, why? I mean, I understand why, but like, I want this to explain why, if you know what I mean. I want to hear it through the perspective and through the words of the people during this time period. I guess that's the more important part. We're only 30 seconds in though, so let's just keep watching. Dang, look at this iceberg. This looks like an alien home or something, right? This looks like half at a Tatooine and half at a Hoth, because this really does, it looks like people live in here. This is an alien landscape. Wow, look at all those people. See, there's no introduction. It's just dropping us right into like, how many people is this? Like 100 people? The first one like introduced us to like what was happening and like the team and everything. This is just like, yeah, all of a sudden there's like 100 people in the middle of Greenland with this cross in the background. It looks like a funeral or something. Oh, is it a funeral or is it just like a church service? The big picture. Presents. Okay, the big picture presents. Icecap. So that's interesting. It's not like Icecap 2 or anything. This is definitely different than the other Icecap that we just watched. I'm curious now, like what Was that like a part of this, or what is it? No, because these are like the same length. This is shorter than the program I watched last time, but I don't know. I don't know if these are like related programs that they made in conjunction, or if these are just like two separate things called Icecap, but I guess we'll see.
This is an American...
Oh my God, after one like full minute, thank you, somebody actually speaks. I thought this was gonna be like all silent or something. I was really not looking forward to that, but thank you. We have narration, finally. Here we go.
Soldier at the top of the world on the Greenland ice cap.
The Greenland ice cap at the top of the world.
He is by no means alone out here.
Wow, look, they have so much more gear. That's so funny, because the first ice cap, they didn't have like this expertise. That's so interesting that we got to view like the advance in like snow and like ice travel technology just over the course of these two videos.
Spread across this mighty ice cap are many others.
Look at this huge base they got going on the ice too. Like last time they were stuck in like a couple of vehicles. Now they have all this. This is really amazing. This is the top of the Greenland ice sheet.
Are many other soldier and civilian scientists, engineers, technicians, and support troops.
I like how this is just like the science that they're conducting, like blowing up half of the ice sheet. Just like, what happens? Does it collapse if we blow it up? Like, I wonder. Great footage though, amazing footage. I'm glad we have that footage, but you know, just a funny experiment that like they wanted to conduct.
They are all probing the mysteries of the Arctic wastes. You may well wonder what Americans are doing in this polar wilderness of ice and snow.
You know, that is a great soundbite that somebody should pull. You may wonder what these Americans are doing in this polar wilderness of ice and snow. Like, that's a phrase worth repeating in these times. Dude, look, they're building tunnels, though. That's, like, so cool. I hate to be the one who thinks this is like the coolest shit ever, but it kind of is. Oh yes, we're getting a map too. Nice, nice. That's like what we were missing last time.
A glance at a globe of the world, however, will readily show that the shortest air route from the Americas...
Dude, so we're actually getting an explanation. I'm so glad. That's what I was asking for. So look, Greenland is the shortest route from the US to the USSR. It lays right between. I wonder why that's important.
To Eurasia is over the North Pole. It is imperative that we push the outpost line of defense of the free world.
Wow, that is another very telling statement. That's what I was looking for in the previous video, is like, can they just like admit to what they are doing? Like they want to like control it so that like Russia doesn't come under influence of it, or at least that's their perception. But I guess they're spilling the beans this time around.
Far to the north, in the very shadow of the pole itself.
Dude, this feels like I'm watching like the Stormtroopers though from Hoth. Really does. Like even the music is helping towards that. When was this made? 1965? So this was before Star Wars. I wonder if like these sorts of events in any way, even like the outfits, influenced Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back and those like uniforms or anything. I'm curious. Because I guess Arctic exploration was for a time like the last frontier before like, you know, the deep ocean and space. I guess the Arctic was like kind of the last unknown, and the Antarctic obviously, but like they're kind of similar.
Our active military interest in the lands above the Arctic Circle began in 1950.
I like that. Wow, we're all right. So this is like the actual history lesson behind our interests in Greenland. So and I like how it says a very concise, a very like point source time period for us to look to is 1950. That is when our interest in Greenland started, apparently, according to this. Obviously, people can say our interest dates back a lot further than that, but that is the argument that this is making.
When it became apparent that communist strategy was to step up the Cold War to hot war aggression in Indochina.
When the communists were trying to make a hot war. So I'm trying to follow their logic. I don't know. I still don't think they've told us why Greenland specifically was important.
China and Korea, a policy which brought quick reaction in the free world.
So yeah, it's stoking all these fears of all these, I guess, communists in this age taking over all these other places like Korea or whatever. And I guess it's just trying to lump Greenland in with that. See, that's the thing. It's like, I just don't buy that. You know, I don't think Greenland is like that important or conquerable. And maybe it is. That's what I want to hear from this at least, is like, I want to hear the actual, like, full force reason.
The polar regions became a major strategic area.
The polar regions became a major strategic area. All right, here we go.
But little was known of this mysterious land of the midnight sun.
Wow, look at this shot. This is an amazing shot too. And that is so true, is that so little was known about Greenland. I mean, like, I guess there were native people here who knew about stuff, but like these really seem like unexplored lands. I shouldn't say that. There were definitely people here before, the Americans, but it's so vast, that's really the truth of it all, is that like there might have been people here, but there are no people here. You know what I'm saying? Like this is so much area for so few people that it seems just empty. Like it's hard to tell the scale of this all, but this you can see so far because of how like just how open this whole area is.
Until recent times, the northern part of Greenland was a total unexplored wilderness. It was not until 1909 that Admiral Robert E. Peary electrified the world by his conquest of the North Pole from an advanced base in North Greenland.
See, this is like even, I don't know, Arctic history. This feels like it should have gone first. This should have been Icecap I, and then the one we watched previously should have been Icecap II, because I feel like this is like the beginning of it all, like the explanation, and the other one was like the advancement of it. But I guess, I don't know. That's just how it feels so far.
And in 1910, the Danish explorer Knud Rasmussen established a trading post at Thule, a name derived from the Romans meaning the ultimate ends of the earth. These hardy early explorers...
Wow, these are incredible. Like, this is some real early exploration. Like, you don't even have, like, proper jackets. You just have, like, fur pelts. And are these the native people or are these the explorers? It said the explorers, but these look, I don't know, they look like native.
Like the native Eskimos.
Oh, okay, so all right, there we go.
Their homes, native tents.
Oh, see, so that's at least a little native recognition. I guess it's, that is cool. I mean, it's weird because so far there is no, like, negative connotation in Greenland, I guess, around the U.S. treatment. Like, the U.S. has not, like, mistreated the Greenland natives yet. This isn't bittersweet yet, but it feels like it's going that direction already.
Their food, seal blubber. Their clothing, the skins and furs of native animals. Their transportation by dog sled or on foot.
Yeah, it's wild that people wanted to explore like that bad. Like to go out with nothing but like skis and some furs. I don't know. I would think it was important enough to to do that.
The scant records of the pioneers gave few answers to the military planners who were faced with the need to fight endlessly for bare survival. They pondered a host of questions on how to establish and maintain modern armies with a vast complex of...
I like this over the footage, like B-roll footage of this guy just like at his library opening books. Like it was definitely directed. He's totally not doing this for real. It's definitely, acted, but it's funny that they bothered to do this for this scene.
Supplies and equipment on the Greenland ice cap.
Like at the same time, it is a oneer, like he hasn't cut. He has done this performance for a while, it is impressive, I guess. Just like that was the sort of thing that actors had to do all the time back then. It's just like perform until cut,
The famous polar flyer, Colonel Bernt Balchen, fortunately recalled that Rasmussen had mentioned that the Thule area would be suitable for a polar airbase if such were ever needed.
Dude, look at all these guys. This is like the U.S. Polar Corps. This looks pretty badass, not gonna lie. These guys must have felt like the toughest of the toughest, being at the top of the world.
A survey of the Thule district showed the soundness of Rasmussen's suggestion.
Dude, are we gonna get to see like Thule being like settled? That's wild.
American ingenuity was called upon to design and build a mighty air base at Thule.
Yeah, we're actually, wow, these are like the architects of Thule. So that's like, for anyone who doesn't know, first off, Thule is now called something else, but for the majority of its history, Thule Air Base was like the US's main presence on Greenland. It's like we leased out this one military base called Thule all the way in the north of Greenland, and that's where like our base of operations lied, really. So this is like the beginning of that, the beginning of like the first foot in the door, the first like toe that we had in the water, so to speak, of Greenland, you know?
Which could handle our largest aircraft. Greenland is part of Denmark. The Danish government was glad to cooperate in this important step to move the free world's line of defense northward.
See, you know, that is what people forget, is that like Denmark has always been cooperative in like the US's needs in Greenland. Like there has never actually been a national security threat. I'm getting too political now, but it's just Denmark has always cooperated. It's not like we have no power in the region. We have like all we need.
And an agreement was soon reached between the governments of Denmark and the United States.
Dang, I hope these trees falling aren't the trees on Greenland, because there's only like one forest, Chingwa Forest or Kingwa Forest, however you say it, on Greenland. It would just be a shame to know. There's no way they're right. Like, I don't think they would have done that. I don't even think Greenland has trees big enough to mill like this.
Overcoming tremendous problems of polar construction and survival, and with the close cooperation of the Danish government, industry went into high gear in the...
See the close cooperation of the Danish government. They've been helping all the way along. I find it funny how frankly they state that the Danish are like very helpful in this whole situation.
Country's defense. In record time, the largest secret amphibious operation since D-Day in Normandy.
The largest secret amphibious operation, really?
Smashed through the sea ice of the Arctic Ocean to within 800 miles of the pole.
That's actually like so insane. I feel like this predates the program. I know I said it earlier, but like this had to have come first. Like this is the actual, this is the settling of Thule. This is amazing. It's amazing that we have footage of this too. Amazing like somebody was carrying a camera this whole time. This is the Americans establishing their presence on Greenland in real time in like 1965 or whenever this program was made, or I think it was earlier than that.
The ships dropped anchor in North Star Bay at Thule, Greenland.
Look at all these new Greenlanders, all these American colonists. See, because that's sort of what they are. You know, Thule isn't a colony, it's a military outpost, but it feels like it almost operates like a colony. I don't know.
Army engineers and the Transportation Corps went to work in an around-the-clock...
Look at them bringing in these tractors and stuff, though. That's so funny.
...clock stevedoring operation.
Wow, and then they're just leveling it. Like that is, like they got here, they blew it up, they leveled it, and they started building. See, that's something that I feel like a lot of people never get to witness in this day and age. It's like the formation of like a new military base, like how ruthlessly effective they were in achieving their goal of building this base, you know? Like they wasted no time leveling it and making sure that they could build on it. That's just... you don't ever think about the logistics of this sort of stuff, but it really is. And you have to remember that these people are at the top of the world in Greenland, you know, like this is not easy to pull off by any means, but they have such large support in the U.S. military that they were able to do it. This is nuts, really, is what it is.
Flew in all directions as quarries were dynamited for material to construct airstrips and roads.
Yeah, they were blowing that up not even to level it, but to quarry it for like building material. See, that's nuts too. It's like, again, that's why it kind of has to operate like a colony, right? Like you need some mining to take place. Like you can't just have purely military operations when part of that includes, building structures, making concrete, mixing things, cooking things. Like you need to bring a business and like a populace to maintain that military. That's where the colony starts, really, is that aspects of it. So it's fascinating, I guess, to see the very early stages of all that happening.
Crews worked in
like them paving roads. Like it's so funny. I bet these roads aren't even still intact because the frost freeze cycle in Greenland is so extreme that like it probably just chewed right through these roads.
Ships around the clock during the Arctic summer daylight when the sun never sets. For example, these pictures were taken at 2 o'clock in the morning. Thus, the mighty airbase grew like magic.
Geez, yeah. Do you see how fast this ginormous warehouse was just constructed? This is, again, like engineering marvels took place completely out of view, right? Like nobody ever saw this happening. I mean, yeah, I guess people did. People filmed it, but like, I feel like this is just so out of view of people's, minds in the news. Even back then, I don't even think people would have been paying attention to this. But look how huge these structures are that they're building up in the middle of nowhere. Holy moly.
Out of the eternally frozen landscape. In 104 days of continuous labor, Thule was operational.
104 days of continuous labor is what it took to get Thule fully operational, which is just, it's wild because that honestly seems like a long time. I guess it makes sense why it would take so long. I wonder if they could do it faster or slower today, but like, even still, like that is like a very short period to construct like a full air base and military base.
The mortal remains of Knud Rasmussen, which lie at the summit of Mount Dundas, must indeed have marveled. With the Thule Air Base a reality, the scientists and support troops flew in.
Welcome to Thule Air Base, home of the wing at the top. Isn't it so bizarre that like all this like American infrastructure existed all the way up here in the middle of nowhere? That's what I find so bizarre. It's like all this like just all the middlemen, all the people, all the secretaries, all the everything that needed to exist up here. Like people had their jobs up in Thule Air Base, Greenland, back all the way back in like 1960s. That's just so bizarre to me, really.
First order of business, a complete polar outfit. For out on the ice cap, man does not survive long without the proper clothing in the often 60 degrees below zero temperatures of an Arctic blizzard. These felt boots protect the feet against frostbite.
Wow, I like the fashion though. It's so funny to imagine a world, either a future or like an alternate world where like America did colonize Greenland to a large extent, and this is like the main fashion of Greenlanders is like this specific boot. Like I feel like shoes specifically are a very large like point of fashion, and to think of like this being like the standard that you'd have to wear in Greenland, it's just funny. I mean, maybe they still do wear boots like this. I don't think they do anymore, but it's a funny idea to picture like this as the uniform of American Greenlanders.
In the crisp, dry air of the Greenland ice cap, where it never rains. A rainy day in New York, however, would turn them into clammy mush. In the grim shadow of the glowering edge of the ice cap, about 14 miles inland from Thule, a primitive base was established called Camp Tuto, meaning Thule Takeoff. From Camp Tuto, the first dangerous probes of the ice cap began. Never before had...
Dang, so this is similar to what we watched the first time. The first ice cap is them crossing these like glacial meltwater streams. This is interesting, but it's another like large squadron of vehicles this time. This sort of is like the sequel, but also the prequel at the same time.
Heavy vehicles ascended the cap or attempted to travel over its rugged surface. Crevasses, many of them...
Oh, I feel like this footage we totally did see in the first one.
Camouflaged by a deceptive bridge of snow, were an ever-present danger. They varied in size from shallow cracks in the ice to massive ice caverns as large as a cathedral.
Yeah, I feel like that exact same statement was said in the last one, too.
A lead group gingerly tested the trail. The drivers warily steer their vehicles by remote control.
Yeah, these are the same exact shots. So this was somehow produced in conjunction with the last one we watched, which I should have suspected. They have the same name. I needed confirmation like this. The guys were controlling those tractors with like strings, like just like they were last time. So that is interesting. And this cool helicopter that we saw last time too, very interesting.
Helicopters went scouting ahead for a relatively free...
I feel like now we're watching like the recap actually. Like this is like telling us what happened in the last ice cap.
Crevasse area. This Rube Goldberg-like contraption is an electronic crevasse detector.
Wow, that's interesting. We didn't see that last time. An electronic crevasse detector that like sends signals down and detects if something's opened up underneath. That's what I was saying earlier. Like we came back with so much more advanced like snow technology that we had never had a need to develop before this. We had such engineered like technologies for doing all these things, even though like I don't know what the applications of half of these things are besides exploring Greenland, really.
A safe trail through the dangerous crevasse area was located and marked with colored flags. The crevasse area extended some 60 miles from the edge of the ice cap. After that, the mighty ice blanket was solid.
Whoa, look at this vehicle. This is something they didn't have last time either. This is nuts. This is like something you build out of Legos. And then like you don't think would actually ever exist. Like two treads as for wheels. This is like a boy's like dream though, is creating stuff like this. These sorts of vehicles appeal to like a very like specific masculine trait of like vroom vroom big trucks, you know. This is great. And this new truck too, this truck with like the steamroller 4 wheels, that, again, this feels like a Lego. This feels like something a kid concocted when they didn't know how all the parts fit together.
All kinds of vehicles and equipment were designed and tested. No one could tell if they would work in this rugged environment until they were tried.
That's so funny. No one could tell if they would work in this environment before they tried. So like they really did just not know what they were doing. They were just building and hoping for the best.
Slowly, the dreaded ice cap gave up its age-old secrets. Like the wagon trains of the early West, mighty ice cap trains called heavy swings lumbered ever onward over the ice cap plains.
Dang, they were transporting a lot of material back in the day. Like what was the need for all these like huge trains full of cargo going into the middle of the Greenland ice cap for? I'm curious what they're actually trying to accomplish here.
After that, the mighty ice blanket was solid. All kinds of vehicles and equipment were designed and tested. No one could tell if they would work in this rugged environment.
I didn't even catch that the first time, but like I was saying that all these vehicles looked like cobbled together like experiments, and then they just confirmed that these actually were just like pure experiments to see what worked the best in the snow. That's so funny. And that's so interesting that like the US military was the one doing all these experiments, you know?
Tried. Slowly, the dreaded ice cap gave up its age-old secrets. Like the wagon trains of the early West, mighty ice cap trains called heavy swings lumbered ever onward over the ice cap plains. This series of trailers on sleds, in which the crews worked and lived, are called wanigans.
See, and that's so bizarre too, like how perfectly nice and like comfortable these living quarters kind of look. Like obviously they're probably pretty cramped, but it doesn't look so bad. I bet it was like manageable to live in these. I can only imagine how long these soldiers had to live in these mobile train homes or whatever. I can't, again, what's the purpose of them even doing this? I don't know, but it seems like this would be fine. This would be like a fun little jaunt out into the ice sheet, with your camper. Look at all these guys just hanging out in their bunk beds. Like this is, again, we're wearing the same thing, the white shirt. It does look like a little fun. It looks like summer camp almost, being out here.
The pioneering of these heavy swings established new camps and airstrips within a few hundred miles of the pole itself.
See, so that's bizarre. So these little caravans of like trains or heavy swings is what he called them, are like packs of supplies that allowed the military to establish like even smaller bases of control elsewhere. Like again, they were like little colonial, like military colonialism packs. That's it's so interesting. It's so bizarre to see it that way, but that's really what it is. You would never get the context of that without watching something like this that just puts it so straightforward. You like
Forever threatening to crush the puny efforts of man in his conquest of the North, was the
Like, to them, they think this is the coolest thing ever. I still think this is the coolest thing ever, but like I recognize like the, imperialist undertones of it all, but at the same time it is like really cool. But they don't recognize the imperialist undertones. They just think it's really cool, and that is a funny lens to look at all this through.
unpredictable Arctic weather. The world's worst blizzards raged down from the pole to put a halt, sometimes for days, to all movement. Nothing to do about it, just wait it out.
When was this made? In the 60s? This is like the ideal like military dispatch to get put on. Like, oh yeah, where am I going? Vietnam? No, you're going to Greenland to hang out in the ice sheet. Like, this looks like so much fun compared to the rest of the combat zones at the time.
And when the storm's fury is expended, dig out and continue the journey.
Dang, there's the Texas flag. These are some clips from the last program too.
Equally feared with the polar blizzard is the threat of fire in this bone-dry climate.
I never really thought about that. The fear of fire in Greenland. I guess that is real. Like, everything is bone dry, and like it's impossible to have large amounts of water not freeze. So that is interesting. I just never thought about that.
Constant fire drills are held to alert the troops to...
It's amazing that they were aware of that even back then, though. That is, like, before they'd even set up camp, they had fire stations. Not before they set up camp. Like, in the same step as setting up the beginning of the airbase, they established a fire department. That's just, again, like, that's more people. That's what makes it more of a colony. Like, there are just... I mean, I bet these people had other jobs within the military base as well, but, like, there are some, like, special firefighter people there too, not just the military.
Each year, as activities resumed during the summer season in Greenland, research and development increased greatly. Scientists studied everything from the sea-sculptured...
Having this ship against these icebergs really put them into perspective, because they didn't look so big a second ago. Like, I didn't realize these were like huge chasms. I thought these were like human-sized holes, but no, these are like hundreds of feet high. This is amazing.
Edge of the glaciers as they flow to the sea, to the life and habits of the native Eskimos.
Oh, that's nice. The Eskimos got a shout out. Until now, this whole program has seemed completely unconcerned with the Eskimos, but I'm glad that they're actually getting a mention. I'm glad we're getting to see them, because this is also a very interesting period in like the Eskimo history, right? So it's interesting to see like the clothes they wear and like how they behave even. Wow, look at this guy. What a pro Eskimo right here. This guy at the top of the world, he's got his sunglasses on and his pipe for smoking. That is like, if the saying a picture is worth 1,000 words is true, this is the first one I'd apply that to, because this is the meeting of the worlds, right? The Eskimo, the native Eskimo with his plastic sunglasses and his, tobacco pipe. Like, how perfect. But look, the Eskimo people are wearing pretty westernized clothes by this point. They don't look like they're seal furs or anything, is what I'm saying. But I don't know too much about the Danish colonial history of Greenland, but it looks like they were westernized to a degree at this point, is all I gotta say, really. That's an interesting flag. I wonder if it's gonna tell us what it represents.
As busy as the troops were, they could always find time to help out a sister service.
Wow, seeing them tow this plane through the ice and it just like dip like that, like this is so risky. I feel like they're at their engineering limits here. Like, one wrong move and they would like destroy this plane and just have to like get another one. Again, that's the amazing thing about footage like this, is like it can't lie, like that is really what happened. Like, they really were just rocking this huge plane across the ice, just hoping they wouldn't break it.
In 1960, the Transportation Corps conducted the largest expedition to date.
The Transportation Corps. What an interesting sect of the army to be conducting like such an expedition, the Transportation. I wonder what the bureaucratic explanation behind that is.
It was called Lead Dog.
Lead dog? It's not called lead dog, it's lead dog? That's funny.
And an actress from the USO helped to give it a send-off. The plan was to cross the entire northern ice cap for the first time. A round-trip journey of over 1,800 miles, much of it over the same route followed by Perry on his historic journey to the pole.
So somebody had already done this before, but they were just doing it again. That kind of makes it less spectacular. I guess it's more impressive how many people and the equipment they brought, but like the fact that somebody did this with like a dog sled and fur, it kind of underscores the impressiveness of this haul now.
Now, over a half-century later, other Americans equipped with the latest developments of modern science awaited the signal to start. The chaplain blessed their efforts. And the camp commander wished them a safe journey into the wilderness. The signal was given to move out, and Lead Dog was on its way to 26 days of travel over the majestic Greenland ice cap.
Lead Dog, yeah, look how big this machine is too. It's like so much wider. They definitely like geared up after that first expedition. I'm so fascinated by the machines they constructed specifically for this mission. Look at all those wheels. Oh my gosh. They definitely don't want this thing falling into a crevasse, is all I gotta say. Oh my god, there's even more wheels. How big is this thing? What even is this?
Fuel caches had been stored along the trail the previous year.
Oh wow, is this the fuel cache from the first one too? The one that I said I wonder what happened to that? Maybe. That would be so funny if it was.
And airdrops showered supplies from the sky.
Again, I just feel like there's a better way to drop barrels of oil than just without any sort of protection or anything. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just me.
The long, hard journey was relieved with some of the comforts of home, such as plenty of good chow.
Yeah, it's crazy that these guys are just like your average-looking Americans, really. Like, there's no difference between these guys and the people that you see on the streets today.
And movies, 700 miles from the North Pole. Yes, even a traveling PX.
A traveling PX. I wonder what that means. That's lingo that I don't know anymore. I want to look at this guy's candy bars, though. They don't look like anything recognizable, which is funny.
Along the way, scientific snow pit studies were made. Seismic studies revealed that the center of the ice cap is almost 10 times as deep as the Empire State Building is high.
Again, another American cliche of creating your own unit of measurement. Like, instead of telling us how many feet, how many miles, how many kilometers or meters, it tells us how many Empire State Buildings deep it is. Like, I guess that puts it into perspective and all and lets you actually think about it, but it's just something that Americans always do. It's like, oh, it's 6 Empire State Buildings tall, you know?
26 days after leaving Camp Tuto, Lead Dog arrived at Crown Prince Christian Land, to the surprise of the only inhabitants, the musk oxen.
Yeah, we saw these musk oxen last time too. Again, amazing that they have literal, like, huge herbivore, like, megafauna all the way up in northern Greenland. It's wild. I am amazed by their presence there.
The expedition had spanned the entire northern half of Greenland. The scientists took full advantage of their short stay in this faraway land.
Again, and what an alien landscape it looks like. Somebody's got to make a movie out here because it really does look like a different planet. It pretty much is a different planet.
One of the rich finds was the remains of an ancient Eskimo camp believed to be over 4,000 years.
All right, here's my question. Were they prospecting for minerals at this time? That's what I just thought. I thought that's what they were going to say. It's cool that they're saying they found an old Eskimo archaeological site, but I was expecting them to say, like, we found gold or, like, we found, cobalt or something. I wonder if they were secretly doing that. Like if they're not showing us that, or if they just weren't doing it. Because I feel like they would show us, honestly. Like I feel like they wouldn't even have like a problem with showing us surveying this area for minerals. They'd probably say it like as a good thing, you know? I'm curious if that was taking place at all. That's what's so crazy is that like people have been inhabiting Greenland for like thousands of years still, and like because of the ice, like yes, stuff gets covered, but stuff also gets preserved for so long.
Years old. Here in the centuries before Christ, men hunted and fished along the clear waters of the fjord. Research on the ice cap had progressed to the point where tactical exercises could be held.
Exercise Arctic Night on Greenland. Greenland.
Arctic Night was an example of this type of operation.
Dude, I love the full orchestra soundtrack for this, though. I wonder if they, like, recorded this specifically. It's trying to lend such an epic tone to this, and it is epic. It's just, like, I guess it's the way the audio is actually mixed in the cut. It just seems so, like, lackluster at the same time. I don't know if that's just me, but it feels hollow, this audio. That could just be a quality thing, not, like, an original thing, but it's amazing seeing these, like, vast Greenlandic, you know, white landscapes and just, like, this tinny, like, classical music in the background. Yeah, so here we had a bunch of paratroopers jump out of plane to see if they could land on the ice. I wonder what this is simulating. You know, what conflict scenario are we wargaming so that we're training soldiers to paratroop into the ice? I wonder what the greater machinations behind this exercise were. Oh man, that guy just took a tough landing though, if you saw that. That was not stunt work. That was that was just a guy not sticking the landing. Dude, these guys do look like the snowtroopers from Star Wars though. I feel like they must have taken hints from something like this. At least like indirectly. If not directly, they look almost like they have the hoods and everything. I don't know. This is wild footage that we have. The reason I'm comparing this to Star Wars is because the landscape just feels so otherworldly, and the uniforms they're wearing and everything they're doing just seems like it comes straight out of like really fiction is what it feels like I'm watching. So it's always so amazing to be reminded that this is real footage of a real place, of real events taking place. This is not a story. It's funny how like this started out to see if they could like paratroop into the snow and march, and now they're just like having fun firing guns. I guess it's like important to know like if your hands get cold or like if the gun still works in the cold. After a while, like aren't you just using this as an excuse to shoot guns? Like do they really need to practice their mortar shooting in the ice? I mean, I guess they have to figure out if the ice is suitable for that, but like how many does it take? What's the difference between like getting experimental, you know, data and just having fun blowing stuff up? Because I bet this was all a lot of fun.
In the land of Santa Claus, Christmas.
What a weird cut, though. We just went from like these soldiers practicing with their ammunitions to the Christmas tree.
Is not forgotten. Although this familiar White House Christmas tree would not last long in the winter gales of the polar latitudes, the ever-inventive GI spirit conjured up this sturdy replica made of iron pipes.
Honestly, that is kind of nice. That's funny to think that, like, again, in either an alternate scenario or a future where, like, there are lots of people celebrating Christmas in Greenland, it would be interesting to see this become, like, a bigger thing. This also feels like the origin of, like, a cultural touchstone, you know, like, in the makings, at least. Like, this is the beginnings of the Greenlandic Christmas tree, so to speak.
Deep under the ice cap, in a tunnel used to study glacier movement, an enterprising GI sculptured an altar of ice, where services of the three major faiths...
Wow, this is pretty sick. I'm not religious, but this is pretty sick. A cathedral in the ice.
...have been held. Because the below freezing temperature in the ice tunnel varies so little, the altar does not melt. On Easter morning...
I wonder if that's still there. Probably not. That seems a more temporary thing. But maybe. I mean, it is just in the ice.
As the first rays of the rising polar sun light up the frozen landscape, divine services are held. Surely one of the most moving and unique sunrise services in the world.
This is crazy that all the soldiers bothered getting outside to do a church service, especially when they even had a church inside anyway.
After experimenting with under-ice structures, the Army Corps of Engineers were determined to build Camp Century. It was to be a self-contained base.
Oh man, I can tell just by the way he's speaking that they didn't end up doing this, but that makes this even more interesting. Camp Century, we intended on building like a permanent ice base.
Under the ice cap, 800 miles from the pole, that would be immune.
See, we were so audacious back then. Like what a goal to reach, you know?
To the raging storms on the surface.
Dang, look at all this cargo that they lifted up here too. All these wooden logs. Does wood even like survive in the cold? I feel like it might just like crumble. Or maybe it gets harder, I don't know. It feels like not the best material to use. I guess wood like is capable of expanding and contracting, whereas like cement will just like break.
In the months it took to build the city under ice, more than 6,000 tons of equipment and supplies were required.
Like, this is a huge operation. Like, I'm wondering what the cost of this was. Like, how much did taxpayers pay in order to construct all these, like, Greenlandic, science or military experiments, really?
They were hauled 138 miles over the ice cap to the site. A 3-day journey in all degrees of weather. Peter snow plows imported from Switzerland.
Even this is insane. They're plowing all the snow and they're like moving it. It's just wild to see like an industrial capacity applied to like the Greenland ice sheet. Again, it's like, what's the purpose of this all really? But it is wild. It is so like you get a respect for the engineering marvels that were being produced at this time.
Their way into the ice cap. Roofs were constructed of overlapping steel arches. These were then covered with snow. Because the snow plows milled the snow, it soon froze into a cement-hard surface. Buildings were prefabricated in the United States.
See, this is so sick too. Like this, so much thought and engineering went into this, and it's like we don't even have a use for this still. How much money went solely into the research and development of all this, just so that we could experiment on Greenland for a few years? Like it's so bizarre how much work and thought was already put into this by the time we were starting to build stuff here.
And came complete down to the last nail. There was no sending out to a local hardware store if a hinge were missing.
I guess it's fair that they didn't have any way of resupplying, so they needed to prefabricate everything. It's wild that we had the like ability to prefabricate houses all the way back then, and we still like don't really do that, even though it's way more efficient and stuff.
To provide power at Camp Century, a portable nuclear power plant was shipped to Greenland. This project aroused keen interest in private industry.
See, that's interesting. I didn't know that either, that there was a private nuclear power plant in Thule as well. That's another thing that requires like more citizens rather than soldiers, right? Like that's another colonial, like, oh, now we need people to run the power plant. And sure, they're probably military engineers or military nuclear, power plant operators, but they're still pretty much civilians. That's part of the population that was established here as well.
Since it provided a practical field test of the reliability.
That's so funny. It was built in Schenectady, New York.
And safety of a nuclear power plant in a populated area. Arriving at Camp Century, Greenland, all the way by land, sea, and ice cap.
Camp Century, does that still exist? Is that still like a real thing, or has that been like completely disassembled or something? I'm curious.
From Buffalo, New York, the massive components were moved into position deep under the ice. The whole camp was anxiously standing by, waiting for the moment when the nuclear power plant would go critical or fail.
Again, this is just, there is so much, not infrastructure, but there was so much investment in getting this whole operation running, like there's a whole nuclear plant that they have to get up and running. They have to get everything built. They have to ship everything in, bury it, dig out the snow, bury it, rebury everything. It's just, this is so much work, and it's wild that it was all done like without a second thought, so long ago. I don't know if this is blowing anyone else's mind as much as it's blowing mine, but it's so wild how much was being done back then. I knew that there was a military base there, but I didn't really understand like what it meant to have settled that base during the time that it was settled. It's just really eye-opening, I guess. It's again part of the value of these programs is you get to see the world from the historic perspective, not just like the after perspective. Like this is how it all felt like it was happening when it was happening.
Success, and with it the magic of the atom, supplying light, heat, and power to the city under ice. Thanks to Army ingenuity, the men at Camp Century live exactly as do other soldiers at more conventional Army camps. Except for the fact that they have no windows, their quarters are modern, spacious, and comfortable.
It's amazing to see the amenities that came with these like Arctic habitation pods, because it is pretty equivalent to the modern standard of living. Like these people aren't shut in. I mean, I guess they're in like cold conditions, but they're not like, these don't look like poor conditions to live in by any means. I wonder if they had hot water. Probably, right? They must have.
Despite its harsh, remote location, USO units...
Dude, no way. Okay, these are...
...to entertain the garrison.
Oh, I thought these were like people who lived there. I was about to say like that's how you know there are colonial aspirations when they bring like loads of women. You know, not to say women can't serve in the military, but like a lot of women like this is for one thing. But this is different. This is a show to entertain the troops.
Fly in to entertain the garrison. The melody maids help to defrost the deep freeze.
Dude, I love that that's the music that they played to them, like this sad Hawaiian tropical guitar blues. I wonder if that really struck a chord with these guys living in the ice for so long, like that lonesome, forlorn, but it's also like cheery. It's that's the Hawaiian like string music. I don't know, it's hard to describe.
In their off-duty hours, the men do what they can to amuse themselves with the recreation opportunities at hand.
This is actually hilarious that they went skiing. Like, obviously that's like the obvious thing to do, but the fact that they actually did it, just, I guess it makes me smile. It's interesting to think of like an American society in like Greenland, how skiing would become like a lifestyle more so. Because in America here, it's more of like a flex or something to go skiing. It's a socioeconomic status symbol, I guess, to go skiing. Whereas here in Greenland, it's more of like a functional necessity to be able to ski. It's just more to think about in the American Greenland canon. Dang, these guys must have been really bored if they built like a fake mechanical bull. But that is really funny still. You can take the Americans out of America, but you can't take the America out of the Americans. Dang, they even brought a football, wouldn't you know? See, what's so funny about this is like they're not showing like military tests or anything. They're just showing them like killing time. This is like taxpayer money, right? Like this is all a tax on the people, and they're just like spending time painting. You know, I don't blame these guys. It's just funny that like they didn't have enough to do to keep them busy, you know, like they were kind of just supposed to occupy the space and see if it could be done, and whatever they did in the meantime didn't really matter. So they were just resorting to, you know, painting and doing all sorts of other hobbies.
One of the most popular off-duty activities is talking to the folks at home through the facilities of the amateur radio service.
See, that's amazing too. I didn't even think about that. I know I say that all the time, but like, I guess they could have spoken with each other over the radio. That's so interesting to think that people in their homes in America were talking on the radio to like their pa who was in, you know, Greenland at the time. What an amazing time.
Ably supporting the ground troops and scientists is the Army Aviation Branch. Their many duties include piloting scientists and soldiers to the various camps on the Icecap. They also fly in the welcome and eagerly awaited mail.
Dude, there's just something so heartwarming about seeing like guys from like 100 years ago just like smiling and happy to see each other. I don't know. It's like they're at the top of the world, but they're still acting like perfectly normal people. And I don't know how else I expect them to act, but like the fact that they're just all smiling and cheery, that is just something to be admired and appreciated.
Survey and mapping teams rely on the helicopters to airlift them to otherwise inaccessible locations and high peaks.
These are much bigger and heavier duty helicopters than we saw last time. I'm interested by that too. I wonder if these are like specially adapted cold helicopters, or are these just like standard grade military helicopters? I don't know, again.
An emergency air ambulance service is another vital function of the Army Aviation Branch.
Again, yeah, this was a logistically complex operation that they were managing up here. Like they had, a air ambulance, air corps, and everything. Like this required such a large support system that like it couldn't have just been soldiers. You needed to create a new like society in order to sustain all the operations they needed to sustain up here.
Even in the remote, frozen wilderness of North Greenland, military traditions are maintained. A 4th of July ceremony is held annually.
See, right, like they're even celebrating 4th of July. This just feels like a military colony.
After 3 years of successful operation at Camp Century, the nuclear power plant was dismantled and relocated in the United States.
Huh, that's interesting. So I guess they got rid of the nuclear power plant there. I guess they were probably worried. I guess, there might have been a few nuclear issues around this time period that would have convinced them to move away from that. But I wonder how they moved it all the way back to the U.S. and still got energy here.
Despite the dangerously high radiation in the reactor system, the operation was conducted without incidents.
See, again, that's just so crazy that they went through this whole effort of like installing this nuclear plant all the way at the top of the world, only to have to disassemble it and take it apart and move it somewhere else. I know a lot of engineers learned a lot of stuff from doing it, but it just seems like a little bit of a waste of time.
This was the first time in history that a nuclear power plant had been installed, operated, and relocated to a new site.
Oh wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I mean, I don't know of any other examples of that ever happening, but that is interesting that this was the first time they had made a whole nuclear station and then just moved it.
The valuable lessons learned in this project were made available to private industry. A prime example of how Army research contributes to a better future for all of us.
That's a really funny little moral of the story they managed to sneak in there. How like whatever like technology that they obtained from doing this, they shared with like private industry. It's just like, oh, that's a benefit. Like now we can make warmer jackets for everyone because of our military operations. That's something that you very rarely see like positioned nowadays. Like, oh, this is like advancing our whole society. But like it's interesting that is how they saw it back then. Like this sort of expedition, this sort of military activity really benefited the whole country. It's an interesting thought.
The unique nature of the Army's mission in Greenland attracts important visitors from abroad. Lord Shackleton, Minister for Air, Great Britain, toured the Icecap facilities. And Prince Knud of Denmark recently paid a state visit to the land his brother rules.
Dang, that's so funny. This is like the Prince of Denmark or something, and then he's just there with presumably his family, which are these women right next to him, just dressed in like normal civilian clothes and like these funny, groovy sunglasses. That's so funny.
The shorter days.
But see, again, like this is the Prince of Denmark or whatever it said, and like he's just hanging out with the Americans. Again, they're cooperating so much with the American military efforts on the continent, or on the island, I guess. Clearly, there's cooperation between Denmark and America in the Greenland situation.
And increasing storms warn of the approach of the sunless winter.
Yeah, that's a question too. How many of these people actually operated here during the winter? Because that seems miserable.
Although the polar winter calls a halt to military research on the ice cap, the constant job of digging out, housekeeping chores,
Dang, so they do stay here even during the winter. See, that's impressive.
and servicing vehicles and equipment for the next summer season of activities takes up much of the time of the caretaker troops. But the
That is amazing. I wonder how much maintenance it requires year after year to keep these from getting buried in snow. It probably a lot. It probably is like a significant job. Again, you know, more taxpayer money being spent maintaining these random ice bases for some undescribed reason.
long winter will end. And as sure as the summer sun shall rise again, dedicated men
Wow, this is a great shot right here, though.
will always be ready to brave any perils, overcome any hardships in the defense of freedom. Whether it be threatened in the steaming jungles at the equator or the frozen wilderness at the summits of the world.
You know, I love how things that used to end with those sorts of spirits, like nothing was impossible. Like this, it's just, you know, it's like to infinity and beyond at the end of that. Like, I really do believe like you can explore Greenland after watching that. Oh, okay, and that's the end of it. Produced by the Army Pictorial Center. All right, so let's watch the credits. That was enjoyable, though. I really think that did more to explain what the presence there was doing and like how they were trying to accomplish it. I think that was a great exploration onto like the beginnings of American presence in Greenland too. I feel like I know so much about this now compared to everyone else. Like that really is like the beginning. Like I just got to witness the early steps of the founding of Thule Air Base and everything. That's just, again, amazing. It's amazing that we have footage of it. Amazing that like we get to just watch this anytime we want. This film is the story of a research and development project filmed by the U.S. Army in Greenland, a part of Denmark. So that's funny, yeah. They just spell it out for you right there, a part of Denmark. The cooperation of Denmark in making this project possible as one of her contributions to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization is gratefully acknowledged. All right, so what it's pretty much saying is part of Denmark's contribution to NATO is them allowing America to occupy with their military parts of Greenland. That's interesting. That's a key negotiating token I feel like was once very important. You know, we'll see if that remains true. Again, a very, very topical thing for us to be watching. I didn't really know what this would entail, but now that we've watched it, I'm glad because I feel like we understand the U.S. relationship with Greenland a little bit more. So with that, I think we're just going to cut to black.